Howdy. This is the Views from the Shop podcast. One and only host, Tim Miller. And tonight, live here on YouTube and Twitter, it is Wednesday, November 19th, 2025. And I wish you a very, very, very happy National Have a Bad Day. On today's show, live, we preview the Ohio State University Buckeyes upcoming matchup tomorrow with Western Michigan. Now, here's the deal, folks. Okay. I'll just tell you like it is. I promised you a show on Wednesday. Here we are. It's Wednesday and we have a show. It is live. And if you weren't expecting a live show, then that means you'll just have to catch the replay of this show. And so, hey, it's better than not having a show at all on Wednesday. Was trying to sort out some things, conversation with someone. Hopefully, we'll be on the show at some point. Doesn't look like we'll get it done tonight. Was trying to move some things around for that to happen. That said, I think we're gonna have some news tomorrow. I think there might be an announcement tomorrow coming up here on Thursday or today, if it is Thursday for you already. But until then, we got to talk about Ohio State taking on Western Michigan. So you know how this goes, right? We're going to cover the Ohio State University Buckeyes matchup here against Western Michigan on today's show. We'll break down the entire game. We'll give some background on Western Michigan as well before we get into offensive and defensive matchups. And then we'll get into some predictions and all of those types of things as well. Now, let me encourage you, as always, since we're live, please do visit the Substack, views from the shop podcast.substack.com. You can sign up there for absolutely free. It is your one hub, the only hub and central platform in order to get well, a lot of Ohio State content. And there's also a chat here that I would recommend you get to. This is where you can get some more insider information, including a whole lot of behind the scenes and details on what's been going on with the secret player, maybe committing to Ohio State. There's a lot of details in there, a lot of hints, a lot of clues, and all those types of things. So I encourage you to get there. I don't know. If you're lucky, I might drop the name before it's announced tomorrow, but I'm not really the type of guy to do that. So it is what it is. We'll see there. Make sure you follow wherever you get your podcasts as well. Follow on all the socials. We're live on Twitter right now. And drop your comments here in the live chat. Feel free to do that. Don't make me hit you with the hammer. You know, we had a fan last year. Fan? More like a hater who would come on here and just roast everything I would have to say. I could say the sky is blue, and you could say, you're an idiot. It's not blue. It's anything but that, actually. And I'd say, well, guy, sorry, you've been banned. So we've had one of those instances. Don't be okay. All right. So Buckeyes taking on the Broncos. That's tomorrow night, 8 o'clock on Big Ten Network. If you've invested in Big Ten Plus, I think there's just one game left on the schedule, and that's Mount St. Mary's coming up next Tuesday, I want to say. That should be the last time, or maybe next Monday, something like that. Should be the last time you need a Big Ten Plus subscription. Make sure we'll all kind of ceremonially pour one out for the Big Ten Plus. We appreciate what it does for us, but it is what it is, right? We need it for a few days, and then we say goodbye to it. So we will say goodbye to it soon. All right. This game taking place on Big Plus. What do we have here for background on Western Michigan? Well, you should know Western Michigan is under. It's got a new coach since last time Ohio State played. Western Michigan, I believe, maybe not. Western Michigan's been under the same coach, Dwayne Stevens. He's in his fourth year. Last time these two teams played was exactly 2 years ago. The same exact head coach, actually. My bad. Western Michigan hasn't had a winning season since 2018. That year, they went either 16 and 15 or 17 and 16, something like that. Not all that impressive, but it was a winning season for Western Michigan. They do not have a 20-win season since 2015. In that year, they did make the NCAA tournament. They lost to Syracuse in the first round. I believe, if I remember right, as a 14 seed. It could have been a 13 seed, but I believe it was a 14 seed. So not a lot of success recently here for our friends up north in Kalamazoo. Hey, look, if you didn't know that Western Michigan is located in Kalamazoo, many are calling it the Chillicothe of Michigan. Many call it that. Shout out Brandon Knoll, Chillicothe. If you didn't know that, that's where Western Michigan is. I feel like you got to subscribe on YouTube for those right? So, standard not the highest there. Dwayne Stevens in his 4th year. Like I said, standard not the highest. They finished 12-20 in each of the past 2 seasons. Dwayne Stevens, he keeps his job. So, I don't know if we're just there to have fun at Western Michigan or if we really think we're building something here. Either way, it's not there's not been a lot of success there. This year at Western Michigan, 2-3. Bring out our ceremonial barf buckets for this. 2-3. Wins over Coastal Carolina and Purdue Fort Wayne. Cool. Join the club. Ohio State also has a win over Purdue Fort Wayne. Losses to Campbell. Okay, Ohio State can't relate to that, but it's a loss to Campbell. South Dakota, they can be plucky, right? Dakota can be plucky. Fun offense, lots of pace there for a lot of programs like South Dakota, North Dakota, and such. And then they lost to Division II Northwood. Division II Northwood. I will tell you that while this is not a game that has any ramifications on Western Michigan's NCAA tournament resume, it does have ramifications on the record 2-3. It is a real game for them. For Division II Northwood, that was an exhibition. It didn't count. If you go to Northwood's men's college basketball schedule, like their actual website, this game is counted as an exhibition. You went and you beat a Division I team and you don't even get to count it. That feels like a mistake. Actually, you should we just like can we all collectively agree that's a real game? This should count for Northwood. Shout out Northwood. The Timberwolves or something? If I'm right on that, you really need to subscribe to Substack or YouTube. They're 264th in KenPom and 256 in Park Torvik right now, so analytically, obviously not seen at all that highly, but a lot of agreement there between Park and Ken, our favorite friends on this show. This is a team this year that's resembling Purdue, Fort Wayne, and App State in terms of teams Ohio played this year. Not expected necessarily to be teams that are gonna be world beaters this year, not expected to be teams that are gonna compete with Ohio State this year, but they are bye games, they are warm-up games, and these are games that need to be on the schedule. Don't worry about what the guys will say about that. Ohio State is 1-0 all time against Western Michigan, winning 73-56 exactly 2 years ago to this very day on Wednesday. It was not 11th, November 19th, 2023. Ohio State won by almost 20 points, 17 points. Quick math. All right, let's get into the Western Michigan offense now. So this is an offense with a 108.6 offensive rating this year, not great. 79.8 points per game this season. So this is again, this is why we've got to be smarter as fans. We can't just look at the overall scoring production. We need to look at more analytical numbers to see where are these teams stacking up. The offensive rating is not good. The points per game is, which means they're playing at a high pace, which is accurate here for Western Michigan, shooting it at 46.2% from the field and 29.3% from the three-point line. 29.3% from deep are the Broncos this season. So, what does that make you think? It makes you think that they're a paint first team. And if you came to me and you sat down and you said, "Hey, I think Western Michigan is a paint first team," I would say, "Thanks for coming in. I agree. Let's continue." 42 paint points per game for Western Michigan so far this year. That's 91st percentile in college basketball this season, and 52.7% of their points come in the paint. Overall, that's 19th in all of NCAA men's basketball Division One this season. So they're scoring a bunch of points in the paint. You heard the 3-point percentage. I just said it, under 30%. You got to score near the rim, right? That would be your assumption. And if that is your assumption, well, then it would be true. 39% of Western Michigan's shots from the field come from the rim. I just popped open my comments here. I see Mr. Hoops Insider himself has a question. You can feel free to ask that question in your leisure. Um, Shout out Nathan. Appreciate the nice comment there. It's weird. It's weird doing a live show sometimes, but it is what it is at this point. 39% of their shots are coming at the rim. NCAA average is 33%. So they're 6 percentage points higher than average, taking overall their field goals being shot at the rim, not their field goal percentage, just the amount of field goals that they're taking. A lot of them come at the rim. 19% of their shots come from the paint. Both of those numbers are well above the national average. So that said, you would hope if you can't shoot the three and you're shooting a bunch of shots right near the rim, hopefully you can make those shots, right? Well, they're converting at an above average rate so far this season. They're 64% at the rim and 47% in the paint. Both of those numbers are really, really solid. They're respectable. So I came on the show early and I said, hey, look, Western Michigan, they lost to a division team. That's really embarrassing. While that is true, it's also true that they're pretty good inside. Okay. So players scoring in the paint for Western Michigan. You look at Jaden Brewer, he's averaging 10 paint points per game this season. I believe we'll get into the number here in just a second. He's averaging 15 and a half points per game. So if you take a look at his paint scoring and you combine that with free throw shooting, that's the only place he's scoring right now for Western Michigan. He's 98th percentile at his position in paint points per game this season as well. Max Burton is another player who can score in the paint at 6.5 paint points per game, and Jalen Griffith, another player to keep an eye on there at 5.3 paint points per game. I see a couple questions here from Mr. Hoops Insider, and I am more than happy to address that here. Actually, that's one thing I will address right at the end of the show when we kind of get into our predictions. So appreciate the question. We'll get there. Don't worry. Um, all right. So we talked about players and how they score in the paint. And that begs the question, what's going on behind the three-point line? Can they just not shoot? Are they not taking shots from the three-point line? What's happening? Well, I was curious. I took a look at the numbers, and granted, of course, I on this show, I try to do my absolute best to not just look at the numbers, but actually watch these teams as well. So that's where I kind of blend the two, and that's what we see here. So Brady Swartz, he's a 6'7" freshman who went absolutely bananas against Purdue Fort Wayne. Ohio State can relate. Buckeyes had their best three-point shooting game of the season against Purdue Fort Wayne. Swartz, he went 6 of 9 from the three-point line against Purdue Fort Wayne. He has one attempt this entire season outside of that game. How does that happen? I don't know. I would think, me personally, I'm not a Division One men's basketball head coach, but me personally, you know what I would say? I would say if the guy goes 6 of 9, that amount of production against anyone, even if Purdue Fort Wayne is not that great at defending the three ball, I would think we'd get him some more shots up and maybe some more minutes. It's not something Western Michigan's really doing right now with Swartz, but hey, I'm here. I'm here starting the Brady Swartz fan club. I'm also leading the campaign for Bruce Thornton to be an All American. We'll talk about that maybe at some point in the show. Jalen Griffith, he's shooting 31.6% from deep on 19 attempts this season. Trey Lewis has one less make also on 19 attempts this year. Hudson Ward is 4 of 13 this season. That gets him right below 31% three-point line this year. No one on the team is shooting above 33% other than Swartz, who plays 11.2 minutes per game. So if this is a team that can't shoot the three ball and their one shooter so far this year isn't getting any playing time, then that would lend you to believe that Ohio State's ability to defend the three-point line in this game, it's not necessarily that it's irrelevant, it's just that it's not needed. Is that one the same? 6 and 1, half a dozen in the other? Say. So they don't shoot the three ball. They don't make the three ball. Okay. 8 3-pointers made against Purdue Fort Wayne. That's the most that they've made in all this season in a game. This is an opportunity for Ohio State to pretty quickly pull away from a team that can't hit any threes. We'll talk about Ohio State's ability to hit the three ball later on in the show, but this is a team that's very much focused on scoring in the paint and at the rim and not from anywhere else, essentially. This is a team that does struggle with turnovers as well. They've got a 17.4% turnover rate this season. That's pretty high. 15 turnovers exactly in every single Division One game this year. So if you can find a market for it and you can bet on the exact number of turnovers that Western Michigan has in this game, I would like you to put next month's rent on 15. Now, of course, we're not going to find a market there for that unless you're like doing it in someone's basement. And if that's the case, I'd have a lot more questions for you. I actually recommend doing that. So please don't. Jake Brewer, Max Burton, Declan Peterson, most often offenders when it comes to turning the ball over from Western Michigan. So that's something to keep an eye on. overall, as you look at player production for Western Michigan, Jaden Brewer, again, he's the main culprit here to look at offensively. He's a 6-6 win. He's scoring 15.5 points per game. Like I said, you combine the paint points with free throws. He's basically only scoring at the free throw line or at the rim and in the paint. So maybe we sag off a little bit if we're Ohio State defensively on Jaden Brewer. He's also averaging 8.3 rebounds per game at 6'6". That's incredible. Jalen Griffith, he's a 5'10 guard, averaging 14 points per game this season. He's only 20% from deep. He is distributing the ball well at 4.3 assists per game. So that's a number to keep an eye on. You keep an eye on Jaden Brewer as a volume scorer, as a guy who can get to the rim and score. You keep an eye on Jalen Griffith, who's not necessarily going to pour in three balls, but he's a distributor. He's the point guard here for Western Michigan. You look at Trey Lewis, he's averaging double figures as well. And Max Burton, he's a 6'10 big. He's scoring 8.5 points per game this year. No attempts from deep so far this season. So he's your traditional big. 3.5 assists, though. That's really good for a center and 7 rebounds per game. Those are kind of your key players and individuals to keep an eye on for Western Michigan offensively. Now, as we go to the defense for Western Michigan, got a lot of good notes. A lot of good notes, I would say, and especially on the defense. I think offensively, we can kind of assume that in this game we would expect them to be one dimensional. We would expect Ohio State to be able to defend. Devin Royal's going to have the ability. It sounds like he's going to play. He's progressing well. There were some comments. I kind of mentioned this. I think I mentioned it in the Notre Dame recap episode. There were comments and kind of guessing, and I don't know where it came from, but rumors that Devin Royal is going to be out at the same time. I never heard that, so I never said it. But even Jake Dealer said today that he's progressing. He's back in practice. I would assume that he's going to be good to go in this game. But he's a player you'll watch defensively in this game with a lot of players who are going to want to flash against you at Ohio State. Defensively for Western Michigan, 79 points per game allowed, 107.6 defensive rating, 40.7% from the field. Our offenses against the Broncos and allowing 32.6% of shots from deep to go in as well. So this is a defense that can, in theory, be scored on. The adjusted defensive efficiency that comes from Ken Palm is even worse than the offensive number. So if the offensive number didn't really blow you away, the defensive numbers will not either. This is a defense that is not necessarily going to turn you over. As you look at what Ohio State has done this year, they've done a pretty good job of protecting the ball. They've definitely cleaned it up over the past 2 games. Against Notre Dame, they had 10 turnovers, I believe. Yes, and they had 4 turnovers the game before that against Appalachian State. If you have 4 turnovers for the rest of the season in a game, it's gonna be really hard to lose those games, right? Western Michigan, horrendous. 4.8 steal rate. 4.8% steal rate. That's second percentile in college basketball this year. So this is not a team right now that's focusing on turning you over, not high pressure. It's nothing like that. And that's where we go into the next point. This is your typical pack line defense that you would expect, where we're staying under gaps, we're over helping, and we're willing to give it the three, but we don't want to allow anything in the paint. The paint presence is there for Western Michigan defensively. They're allowing 7 paint points per game. That's a really solid number. You remember just last game when Ohio State played Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish destroyed the Buckeyes in the paint, 38-18 in that game. So that was a place where Ohio State was kind of a liability offensively and defensively. So that's something to keep an eye on for sure. Kind of strength against weakness, strength for Western Michigan against weakness for Ohio State. They've not been great scoring in the paint this season. Western Michigan has 1 game allowing 26 paint points or more, and Ohio State is already, like I said, they're not scoring a lot of paint points as well. So this is strength on weakness. This might not be the game for Ohio State to figure it out offensively in the paint, but I would also say you're playing Western Michigan. You're not playing Northwestern. And pick any team in the Big Ten, they are better than Western Michigan. So you should be able to kind of force your will in this game and have the ability to score in the paint. It's Western Michigan. It should be possible. It shouldn't be impossible. So that's going to be a place where, again, Western Michigan is good defensively. Ohio State should still be better. On the defensive side, you kinda asked the exact question on the offensive side, right? Can they defend the three-point line? We asked the same question offensively, can they shoot based on their paint numbers? We do the exact same thing on the defensive side where the paint numbers are really good defensively. What about their three-point defensive numbers? And this is where I said again, they pack it in. They will allow you to shoot the three ball. They're actually desperate. They're asking for it. They want three balls, not necessarily shot in their eyes, but in their overall presence because they'll allow them to be given up. You'll see this on Thursday in terms of how Western Michigan defends. A 52.2% three-point attempt rate, that is wildly high this season across college basketball. And they're about middle of the pack in terms of three-point percentage allowed at 33%. Ohio State is letting it fly at a 47.8% rate this year. So that number a little bit lower than what Western Michigan is allowing. So here comes the question, can Ohio State just drown Western Michigan early? If Western Michigan isn't turning you over, if they're not hitting threes and they're going to allow the three ball, that seems like a formula for success for Ohio State. We'll talk about that more later on in the show. The other thing I'll say defensively for Western Michigan, they're a really good defensive rebounding team, averaging 30.8 defensive rebounds per game this season and a 74.5% defensive rebounding rate. Those numbers are both really, really good. So they're respectable. You look at Brewer, Burton, they lead the way. Swartz, surprisingly, third in defensive rebounding, even with his lacking minutes. I don't know. I feel good. I feel good planting my flag this year. Of all the takes that I can give, I think the best take I can give is that Brady Swartz deserves more playing time. I've told you this before. I've been reached out to by parents, grandparents, family members, friends of players like Brady Swartz, for example, not him specifically, but where we do episodes like these where Ohio State is playing these teams that are so small, like Western Michigan, like this is the game of the year for Western Michigan. There's nothing like going to play Ohio State. You may say I've talked to former players, even in my own personal life, where I've had the opportunity to talk to players. I worked with in a previous life a tight end who played, I think, at Tulsa. And I think his senior year there, they went to play Texas and they got absolutely destroyed. And he said it was the absolute best experience of my life. Playing there, one of the greatest stadiums in college football, playing against a program and a brand like Texas, all of the facilities. It was also cool. That's how these programs see playing a game like against Ohio State, not like they're a little brother or that they're not worthy or whatever the case may be, but it's a cool experience for them. So all that said, I have had people reach out before and say, "Hey, it was really cool to hear my son's name said on your podcast. Like, that's cool." I hope Brady Swartz family listens to this show or watches it. Maybe they're watching live. If you're Brady Swartz family, drop it in the chat. I hope they hear this and they appreciate it. Okay, that's all I have. All right. So keys to the game in this one for Ohio State. This is where we kind of get back to the question of X factor for both teams in this game from insider. So I think number one key to the game for Ohio State is they've got to take. Where's my last page? It's back there. I'll get in a second. They've gotta take what Western Michigan gives them, right? This is your classic taking candy from a baby situation. We've all been there. We've all been tempted. Hopefully, we haven't done it, but you imagine the Skittles are just sitting there, Mommy is turned around, she's grabbing her iced coffee in the local coffee shop, and the Skittles are just sitting there. Baby doesn't need them. Baby's 3. Baby doesn't need Red 40. We are not babies. We need Red 40, so we want the Skittles. And the baby's essentially asking for you to take the Skittles, and it's up to you to take them. That's what Ohio State needs to do in this game. Just take it. It's there for you. The three-pointers are gonna be there for you. Take them. They're not going to take three-pointers, defend the paint, defend the rim, but especially offensively, they need to take what is given to them in this game. Bruce Thornton is shooting and lights out this season. He's shooting the three ball at an incredible rate for the Buckeyes with a fair amount of production now at this point. John Mobley Jr., really not great inside the three-point line, but from deep, he's been really solid. You look at a player like Christoph Tilly. I need my other sheet. Just bear with me. Sometimes you grab 2 sheets instead of 3, and then you gotta wheel away for a second, but I wheel back. I'll always wheel back. I've spoken about this before overall. You like Christoph Tilly is one example, but I really don't think Ohio State shot the 3 ball all that well this year. That may be a hot take, but look, I know it doesn't work this way necessarily. If you take out Ohio State's performance against Purdue Fort Wayne, they're shooting just 31% from deep this year. Tilly hasn't made a three-pointer since the Purdue Fort Wayne game. He's now 2 of 16 on the season. To go where you wanna go, by the way, Christoph Tilly has gotta be better than 2 of 16 across the season. He's able to take that shot, he's allowed to take that shot, he's encouraged to take that shot. He's even as a center, he's gotta start hitting the 3 ball with more consistency. He's going to have the chance to do so in this game. So as I look at how Ohio State matches up with Western Michigan overall, there's one key to the game for me. It's take what is given to you. The Buckeyes have got to hit the three ball in this game. In terms of X factors, I think for Western Michigan, it's relatively simple. Do I go Brady Swartz? He plays 11 minutes per game. Like, it's hard to go to Brady Schwartz, right? Like, it is, as much as I'd love to go there, I won't. I do think you have to look at Jaden Brewer. He's dicing teams up. He's been incredible rebounding for the Broncos this season. He's scoring in the paint at a very, very high rate and very efficiently as well. So I'd say he's probably the X factor on that side for Western Michigan because you don't want any shot at winning this game. And normally in games like this, I will go to what would it take for a team to upset you? I said in the IU Indy game, for example, this is not going to be easy. And if you weren't tuned into that show, the preview game, I laid it all out for you as to why this is going to be a difficult and wild game for Ohio State. And the App State game, I could kind of paint the picture for how this game could be close for a little bit. It was close for a little bit. It's hard for me to paint the picture for how App State, or sorry, for how Western Michigan pulls off an upset in this game. But I do think the X factor for Ohio State, I guess if you want to pick one, it's probably John Mobley Jr. This is kind of the game patented for him. He should be able to hit the three pointers in this game. He's hit the three ball well this year. He's behind Devin Royal. He's behind Bruce Thornton in terms of overall 3 point percentage leaders on the team. But man, this is a game where John Mobley Jr. very quickly and easily could go 6 for 8. If he does that, the Buckeyes win by 30 points. Speaking of winning a game by 30 points, let's take a look at what the BIP says for this game. So, as you know, and if you're new here and don't know what the BIP stands for Betting Intelligence Platform. It's something that we used last year to absolutely rake in the cash on betting. This year, it has been so naughty that, quite frankly, BIP should be a swear word. Okay, it should be a cuss at this point. So grab your earmuffs if you have them. However, the BIP has been pretty close on Ohio State games this year. The BIP projects Ohio State to open at minus 25. Let's do this live, shall we? Do we have a line yet for Ohio State? It is 9:44 p.m. I'm up late. So are you. If you're anything like me, you have a bedtime in 16 minutes. So we got to get moving and we got to get moving quickly. Wow. Ohio State is a 27.5 point favorite. That's a little bit more than the bit projected. In terms of the total in this game, the bit projects us at 159.5. And I'm seeing 155.5 or 156.5 on FanDuel slash DraftKings and probably other sports books at this point. So that would not qualify for a play either way from the BIP, but good Lord, the BIP has been horrible this year. So who gives a crap what the BIP has to say? Is there any word on the secret recruit? Stay tuned. I'll talk about it at the end. Everyone wants to know the secret recruit. Ohio State plays a game tomorrow, folks. Are we not hyped about that? I get it. I get it. It's been a weird week or so. So in terms of my prediction for this game, what I generally see is the formula for a lesser team upsetting a pretty solid team, like in Ohio State. Not in a way I mean like Northwest. We'll leave Northwestern out of this, okay? For Penn State to beat Ohio State, for example. For examples like that, what do you need? Well, generally, you're going to need to be able to steal some three pointers more so than the other team. You're going to need to be able to sit down and defend. Defense travels. I've been told that before. And you're going to have some luck your way, whether that be turnovers or whether that be we just play at a really slow pace. So we're going to limit the amount of possessions, which means in general, you're going to limit the amount of ways that a team can get up on you. All that said, look, This game does not check any boxes for Western Michigan. They cannot shoot the three, and they will not. They cannot defend the three, and they will not. They don't first force turnovers, and they probably won't in this game, and Ohio State's been pretty good there, and they play at a relatively high pace. I'll get the exact number for you here in just a second. 73.4, that's 83rd percentile. Ohio State's pace is at 69.9, 56th percentile right now, so a little bit lower, but we know Jake Deaver wants to run. So that said, I struggle to find a way where Western Michigan can pull off an upset here in Columbus. I struggle. I struggled to see where Western Michigan can win this game. So I'll take Ohio State to win, obviously. And 27.5 point spread, that's a lot. I would like to see that number come down a little bit before I even think about touching it. But I could see Ohio State winning this game by close to 30, 27.5. That scares me. I don't feel comfortable touching that. All right, a couple questions here in the chat. One, Maryland going to overtime with Mount St. Mary's. Does that worry me when Ohio State plays Mount St. Mary's? That's the next game for the Buckeyes. We have to remember Mount St. Mary's, they made it to the NCAA tournament last year, and they returned their head coach as well. So they are sitting at 1-3 so far this year, not counting the Maryland game. They lost to West Virginia 70-54. They lost to Bucknell 73-62. They beat St. Francis. St. Francis, the Red Flash. It's not Francis Red Flash, it's the Red Flash according to College Basketball Analytics. They lost the game 74-66, and then they lost to Cincinnati 72-55. They've been tough. I mean, if you look at the game against West Virginia, for example, I believe that game was relatively close. Let me see if I can find a first half and second half breakdown here. Uh, come on. Come on, come on. Yeah, I won't find it quick enough to where you, like, stop or to the point where you would continue to listen as I try to find it. I know that they've been relatively plucky this year. I don't know how much I worry about it. Does it worry me? I mean, no, I'm not really worried about Ohio State playing Mount St. Mary's. I understand the question, though. If you just look at Mount St. Mary's, for example, they are 239 in KenPom right now. If they're 109th, maybe I'm worried about it, but that's so far down. I need a sip. So, fun fact, left my little baseboard heater on for the past couple days. Come up here. It's hot up here, man. It's real hot. All right. When do we give Bruce the Wooden Award? I don't know. You tell me at Cameron Myers 25. Would you like to do it today? I'd be fine with it, but there could be consequences. One of which being that we don't have the authority to do so. But I'm all in. Bruce Thornton's playing like an All American right now, and I'm more than willing to talk about it. All right. Another question here from at Yuta 1076. Is there any word on the secret recruit that I can share? No, not really. Other than that, I have an article prepped. I have a show prepped. I was hoping to have that player on the show tonight, and we weren't able to make it work timing wise. But yes, I wouldn't expect an announcement tomorrow that Ohio State is going to earn a commitment. I will leave it at that. There's more details, especially in Substack where chat. If you're a fan like that likes to invest and kind of say thank you for your work, and also I'm willing to invest in like having some more insider information. That's a place for you if you'd like some more info on that. But I won't share anything more than that because I am absolutely not interested in breaking news, and I'm absolutely not interested in spoiling a commitment for a player. But I do expect the announcement to be tomorrow. Everything is on track. There's nothing new there. This was always kind of the plan. So we've just been kind of waiting this out for a few days at this point. But I know everyone's kind of sitting on pins and needles with that announcement. I do expect it to be tomorrow. Or if you're listening on Thursday, I do expect it to be today. All righty. So we went live today. It's the first time for a while. I have to go back and listen to the audio. I believe we had pretty solid connection throughout the show. I know that was kind of a bugaboo for me and maybe for you as well when we went live during the preseason. And even for that first show against IU Indy, the production level was horrible. And for that, I blame my internet. I can't really necessarily apologize because it's not my fault. It's AT&T's fault. And if they're going to talk to me about 5G fiber, whatchamacallit, I expect the internet to actually be okay. Like, can we make it from the basement up to the attic? I don't know. Apparently not for AT&T. So if you're with AT&T and T and your internet is good, then I envy you for that. So here's what we'll do. Ohio State plays Western Michigan tomorrow night. I will record an episode probably, it'll either be late Thursday night and be published Thursday night or Friday morning. I'm not sure yet. We'll see how sleepy this guy feels because this guy needs his bedtime, sleepy time. We're 9 minutes away from my bedtime now. So that said, we'll be back with the show for a recap show against Western Michigan, and then we'll preview Ohio State against Mount St. Mary's. That show will come on Monday. Typically, the preview should come out one day before the game actually takes place. And then if you can get through that game, we're going into Black Friday. Ohio State's undefeated. They've got a shot to remain undefeated and pick up another Power Five conference win over another ACC team. This game at Pitt. So that's a game that we should be interested in watching as well. And that's the next big test for Ohio State. But we cover every game here on the Views from the Shop podcast. Appreciate you being here today and following along. Looking forward to some news tomorrow for Ohio State basketball. Thank you for being here again today. If you were here live, please subscribe on YouTube. That's where I could really use some help. Get a lot of followers on Twitter. Love, love, love getting new subscribers on YouTube, which we get with every single video. So come join the club there as well. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast and give a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast as well. Can't let the nut house win. We absolutely cannot. All right. Until next time, I shut up before you shut me off. Thanks so much for being here today and go